The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Live from Boston, Massachusetts, it's Unscheduled with Les Skymo and Dave.
Howdy.
And Dave, I want to thank our military for all their sacrifices and what they do for this country. God bless them and their families. And thank a vet. You know, that's one thing I like to do, Dave. When I out and about, wherever I'm at, you wear your Air Force hat a lot. I've got an Army hat that I wear once in a while. And you know, I see a lot of these vets with these Vietnam hats on and different hats, and I will always, and you carry your dog tag with you, yeah?
It's got my blood type on it, see?
Yeah, that's what I need to do. I thought about that.
It says O positive. If I ever got in a wreck or anything, they'd see that and they'd say, well, we know his blood type.
Well, that's the only thing I got to leave my kids in my will, is my dog tags.
You got two of them.
Yeah, I know. I don't want them fighting over it.
You got two. I got my other one put up.
But I like to walk up to them and shake their hand and thank them. And you know, especially, Dave, if they're a Korean War vet or World War II or combat vet.
Yeah, Korean vets are getting up there in age. Most of them's in their 80s.
Right. Well,
even Vietnam vets are in their 70s.
Yeah, so. we're losing a lot of Vietnam vets. And I heard a number one time now this was World War II vets. I think it might have covered all of them up to Vietnam, but somewhere around 4,000 vets a month
could be
are dying somewhere in there.
It could very well be true.
And but you know, God bless them, brother. God bless them. And like I've always said, I'm proud that me and you both served. So anyway, now. What do you think about these Kavanaugh hearings? I tell you what, Dave, it burns me up, man, because the first day, I watched some of it, I got so sick and tired of hearing these communist, evil Democrats. It's just like mockingbirds. It's just like having 500 cages of mockingbirds, and they all they know is one word, you know. And they all follow suit, and but they, you know, Mr. Kavanaugh had to take his children out of the hearing room because it was so vile, and they were so vicious to that man. And Dave, I tell you, that really upset me.
Well, the beginning of it upset me the way they had him set up from the get-go. As soon as the thing was brought into order, they started piping up saying, well, cancel this meeting. Call it, you know, all these things were all pre-planned so that they could make it look like it was spontaneous, but it wasn't. They had planned it out over the weekend, what they were going to do.
Yeah. Schumer got with them. They had a big meeting, and it got out on him, you know. And but that's the way they are. And then it's one protester after another, Dave. You know, and I don't know how much of it you watched today.
I saw probably 3 or 4 hours of it.
Yeah, but, you know, how many daggone protesters is getting in there?
You know what they do?
It was all day long.
I heard what they do. As they drag the protesters out, that leaves a chair open.
Yeah.
So they allow one more person to come in, and that person's another protester.
Oh, well, that has to
That's why you can't get rid of them.
Right.
And then they have it planned that every so often they'll pipe up and start screaming. You can't really understand what they're saying. And they just jump up and start screaming, and then they get hauled out, and another protester takes their place.
Like a bunch of blowflies.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, but, you know, it was funny, though, today. I was sitting there listening to it, and this one woman, she got up and got one word out of her mouth, and she was gone. She must have been sitting close to the door. They put the hook on her quick. But, you know, he's going to be confirmed. There was nothing they can do to stop it. And I don't understand for the life of me, Dave, how that anybody that has any sanity at all can sit and watch that, the way they act, the way they have been for a long time. This has been, the Democrat Party has been going ultra-left / communism for quite some time. How can you sit, especially today, when the cake is baked, okay? It's a done deal. Up there in Boston, they done elected another Democrat that is a communist, and Ariana Presley's her name. She beat out, David, a 10-time
Yeah, he'd been in Congress for 20 years.
Yeah. He'd been elected 10 times in Congress, 11 years. Michael Capano up there in Boston. And she's a self-proclaimed communist and beat him out. Now, don't tell me that the Democrat Party ain't going communist. But how can you sit, David, and watch that?
There's no opposition to her, though. She's got the seat.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no Republican running against her.
But when answer me this, we know, me and you, especially people like me and you, we swore an oath to that Constitution, and there's no expiration date on
Just
that.
like the president, he's sworn in congressmen, senators,
right.
all the military, they all take the same oath.
Same oath.
To uphold the Constitution.
Now, go ahead.
Just the oath that we all took is to defend the United States, and that's why we took that oath, because we believe in this country.
Right.
And we raised our hands and we got sworn in. And the thing is, we were sworn in. We didn't make a promise. We were sworn in because of the gravity of the situation.
Right.
You were sworn to uphold the Constitution and fight against all enemies that come against the United States. And that's exactly what we did. And I'm proud of it. I wouldn't take anything for my military service. It was a great experience in my life. And I'm grateful, for the opportunity to serve this country because it's given so much to me.
Right. Well, and Dave, and that's the way President Trump feels. And that's the way anybody that's patriotic feels, that appreciates the opportunity. Why was you born in America? Out of all the places that you could have born, why was you born in this country? Why was I born here? Only God knows the answer to that, Dave. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate being born into this country. The land of opportunity. Get off your tired, so sorry butt and get out there and get it. It's out there if you'll go out there and get it.
But this country, it offers such opportunity to everyone.
Everyone.
And, we say that there's poor people in this country, but if you travel throughout the world, you'll see poor people. I mean, there's people that's never even seen a car. Right. They've never seen a car. They've never took a plane trip. They've never ridden in a car. They don't get enough to eat. I heard a statistic that Americans eat in one day what most of the world eats in a week.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
That's an amazing figure.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Right.
The food that we eat in one day would last them a whole week.
Yeah.
In my case, since I eat too much, I probably eat 2 weeks worth of food.
Right.
But that's just we don't know how good and that we have it. And we should be thankful to our God that we were born in this country.
That's right, brother.
Because there's no other greater country in the world.
That's right.
There's none.
Well, see, me and you understand why America is America. We understand that. We got a clear vision of why America is America while we're here. But on what you said, America has the fattest poor people on the planet.
Well, they got air conditioning, they got automobiles, they have color TV.
They got food stamps.
They're not hurting for really anything.
Medical care.
I mean, everything is I guess, you could say that they're poor in comparison to, say, somebody that's, a billionaire or a millionaire.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
But if you look at the whole world, they're doing pretty good.
They're doing good compared to the third world countries today. But yet they'll jump on the Democratic bandwagon because and the college kids are the same way. Not all of them. We've got some really good college kids out there. But there is, I don't know, I'm going to throw a number out there. At least half of them, 40% of them, maybe it ain't that high, but you see them tearing statues down. You see them doing this Antifa nonsense. You see them been paid by George Soros. Friend of, well, matter of fact, Donald Westman, that does all aboard on Tuesday night, he went down there to see Mike Pence, Cincinnati, and he asked they had feudal protesters down there, a couple dressed up like aliens, and one guy with them like an astronaut, and they questioned Donald Trump's sanity. And but anyway, he asked one of the protesters, a young girl, a question. She said, well, I'd have to ask my boss if I could answer those questions. She's been paid by somebody, the DNC via George Soros. But how, David, in light of what's been going on all these years with the Democratic Party, if you have, back to where I started, if you have a lick of sense, if you have any brain at all in your head, how can you see what's going on, ally yourself with this evil, demonic Democrat Party, and call yourself a patriotic American, and look me in the eye and tell me you love this country? David, they're a bald-faced liar. And if you watch these hearings, there's two things that these bloodthirsty people care about. That's killing little unborn innocent babies, and it's homosexuals. You know, and that's they are so dark, they're so evil, they're so sinister. That is all they care about. They're full of the devil, David.
Yeah, you got that right. Just I challenge anyone to show me in the United States Constitution where it says a woman has a right to kill her baby before it's born. Or show me where it's stated in the Constitution that a homosexual can marry a homosexual. Where is it man marrying men and women marrying women? And now he's got these binary choices. You don't even know what they are. Sometimes they could be a woman. Sometimes they could be a man. You don't know physiologically what they are. They can use any restroom that they want. It just depends on the day. And they can say that one day they're a woman and they dress up like a woman and go into the woman's restroom, or even go into the men's restroom. I don't know what, but because it's up to them. It's their choice where they want to go. If they could be actually a man dressed as a woman, go into the men's room and maybe get beat up. I don't know. It could happen. Yeah. But you know, it just depends on what day of the week it is and what they want to do with themselves. If they want to claim to be a man, they can be a man. Yeah. Claim to be a woman, they can be a woman. Right. But physiologically, God made them a certain way. He made men and women, and He said men and women are to marry.
Right. Reproduce.
And that's why you got the Catholic Church. These priests, they're homosexual pedophiles because they don't get married. I think they use it for a cover to join the priesthood. So
I think it's perverted to start with.
It provides them cover for saying, well, you're 50 years old and you've never been married because you're a homosexual pedophile. Yeah. That's why you don't want to get married.
Well, I don't think that not allowing them to be married is the root of the pedophilia problem. I think they use that for a cover.
I do too. I do too.
They're that way before they ever go in.
I think you're right about that. I think you're right.
They're already perverted as it is, and now I know this is controversial, but I'm gonna say this, Dave. When it comes to being a homosexual is an emotion, all right, and it's a temptation. Now, if they say they're born that way, okay, show me the DNA. All right. Now, I liken it unto any other temptation. Okay, some people are kleptomaniacs. Now, we're all born in sin. We're all born with the capability of doing all these things, David. But the thing about it is, the reason me and you are not homosexuals is because it don't appeal to me. I don't sit and dwell on it. I was raised different, okay, and I don't have them emotions. But even if I did, David, I don't have to give in to that emotion. Just like somebody that's a kleptomaniac.
Right.
Okay, they got a habit of stealing. Mm-hmm. That's an emotion, all right? They don't have to act on that emotion to steal, okay? But they act on that emotion to steal. To me, now, like I said, I'm surprised this phone ain't burned off by now because of that statement. But to me, there's no difference. You give in to that temptation, That's what you become.
Well, yeah,
Now,
God said, He said, I set before you life and death. He said, choose life.
Yeah.
And there's always choices we can make in this life. And it's like you said, you could choose to be whoever or whatever you want to be. And if you want to be, if you want to make the choice of being, if you're physiologically a man and you want to be a woman, in this country you can make that choice, but it's not to say it's right.
Right.
It's a choice. Everybody, and there are consequences for everything you do in this life.
Right or wrong.
Right. There's a consequence. And I mean, if you sow to the wind, you'll reap a whirlwind. And that's exactly what happens in this life today. People are sowing to the flesh and they're reaping the flesh. They're not sowing to the spiritual things. If they understood the spiritual things, really they're lost. And they're lost and undone. They're in a world that
confusion.
They're very confused. And the reason they're confused is because they don't know God.
Right.
And the only way you can know God is through Jesus Christ. And that's the only way you can have salvation. And that goes for a Catholic priest that's a pedophile. He needs to get saved. He needs to turn his life over to the Lord, and he needs to get right with God. Because we know that's not right. I mean, there's some things that just aren't right. And this thing with Judge Kavanaugh, they're talking to him about stare decisis, which means that precedent law takes a law that was done in the past, it takes over as being the law of the future. Now that's a crazy thing to say. If it was a bad law to begin with, why is it a good law later on?
Right.
Because look at Dred Scott. I think it was 1848. Mm-hmm. The Supreme Court said slavery was about black people. Said they weren't equal. They were not equal to white people. Was that a good decision? Should we hold precedence on that? Well, no. The reason is because there are right and wrong things to do in this life, and that is wrong. And it's as simple as that. If you just like schools desegregation, it was before my time, but when I was a child in Little Rock, Arkansas, they sent the troops in to desegregate the schools, and they all through the South, every state was that way, and it was mostly Democrat governors that were saying that it was all right to have desegregated or segregated schools. Yeah. So what's Eisenhower do? He sends the military in to desegregate the schools. They had to forcibly do that, and because the governors and the mayors and everybody in the state was corrupt. Well, what else could you do?
There's a lot of the public, not all the public, but
the police, the sheriffs,
amount of the public,
police. Yeah. They were all following orders from the governor, and the governor said, "Yeah, it's all right. We can have segregated schools."
Right. Well, in 1970, we moved to Florida. Okay, and a little place in northern Florida. I graduated high school down there. Now, I'm trying not to holler when I talk, but I just get so emotional. But anyway, if I get too out of hand, just tase me. And
chokehold on you.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, abominable snowman or something. But anyway, I went to work at a sawmill down there, and I think it was in. I graduated in 75, so it was 73 and 74, I believe. I worked at this sawmill day. Now, in 73 and 74, okay, we had a black bathroom and a white bathroom. But now, here's the thing. During the blacks and the whites, they done commerce. They got along. They worked together. We went to school with them together. Had one little dust up when the Black Panthers, they thought they wanted to be little Black Panthers. And so, but that didn't last long. That blew over in a couple of days. And but we played sports together. We all got along together, but now they never went to church together, okay? And you didn't see no mixed couples. Now, I went down there, 6-8 years ago. Went down there and took wife a tour of the place, and it's a lot different. It's more integrated now than it used to. But now this is a fact. The railroad tracks and the highway run parallel to each other. The blacks lived in the project on one side of the tracks. The whites lived on the other side of the tracks where we live. And it was culture shock for me. I wasn't raised that way, David. I didn't know about segregation. I didn't know what a racist was. We wasn't raised that way. We was taught, that everybody's created by God and made in His image. I didn't know what being a racist was, Dave, until I moved down there. But now, so many of them people, even at that time, even though that's the way things was, they would say, "Well, I'm not a racist," and they was a product of their environment, Dave. And but like I said, they got along with the blacks. They done commerce with the blacks. We went to school. We had friends that was black. They had friends that was blacks, black. And I mean, right or wrong, that was their culture, Dave. I never went down there to be some kind of civil rights hero. You know what I mean? I went down there and I lived my life. We seen the way things was. We noticed all that. We wasn't blind to all that, Dave.
Well, that's exactly right. But that's just the way it was.
The way it was.
That's just the way it was, and everybody thought, well, there's nothing to it. It's just the way it is. But you know what? If you go back in time, 100 years ago, down south, the Ku Klux Klan was a military arm of the Democrat Party.
Yes.
And that's exactly the truth.
Right.
They sent them out to terrorize black people, tell them not to vote.
Right.
They didn't want them to vote.
Threatened to kill them.
And
they did kill some of them.
And this sounds crazy, but a lot of black people today don't realize that when I was a kid, most of the people that I knew were probably Republicans that were black.
Yeah.
They were.
Right.
And that changed in the 1960s. I don't know what happened, but it changed. And it changed to where all the Democrats, now 95% of all blacks are Democrats now. But I think it's going to change in this next election. I think you're going to see a subtle chipping away on the Democrats, for the blacks from the Democrat Party. I think they're moving more to the right because I don't think they're socialist.
Well, no, they're not. And when that pendulum began to swing, David. Now the Southern blacks, okay, they was probably, I don't know what they was, to be honest with you. I don't know if they was Democrats. I don't know if they was Republicans. I really don't know. I never got into politics until after I was out of the Army. I was 22 when I got out of the service, and I didn't vote until I met my wife, and she voted ever since she was 18. But anyway,
I voted for Richard Nixon.
Did you? Yeah, you're a little bit older than I am.
1972.
But now, when did that change up north? David, I really believe that changed in 1964 with Lyndon Baines Johnson, okay? And when he signed the welfare bill, what did they call that? The
war on poverty.
Yeah, it was the war on poverty.
But
I think that's when things started to change, and it wasn't the older ones, David. It was the younger ones coming up under that. Is when it started, and then you had the riots of the 60s.
Oh, I remember that.
The anti-war movement.
Oh, yeah.
You had the rise of the Black Panther movement.
Yeah.
That's when that generation of blacks started turning Democrat, and you know why? Because the socialist, communist, liberals took over the colleges. They started to taking over our high schools. They no longer began teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic and civics. They started indoctrinating them, especially in the colleges. It started in the colleges, Dave. So they started indoctrinating this younger generation. A teenager's rebellious by nature anyway, for the most part. And they'll jump on just about anybody's bandwagon that comes against the man, they feel like they're oppressed because they got to go out and make a living, because they got to make their bed, because they got to get up and go to school, because they have to buy their own car, because they got to cut their grass. you start telling these young skulls full of mush that they don't have to do that, and their parents is wrong, and the government's wrong, and everybody's wrong. You've got Black Panthers, okay? You've got your Aryan nations.
Remember the '68 Olympics where they held their fist up and bowed their head?
Right.
Well, that was the first protest that I ever saw in public.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about kneeling for the national anthem now, but they were doing it back in '68 during the Olympics.
Right.
The sprinters were I think they're Black Power.
Well.
They gave a Black Power salute. They went like this and bowed their head and raised their fist in the air when they had played the national anthem. That was the first time I think I ever saw anybody protest.
Yeah.
You know, the United States. I never saw anything like that before.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about the Aretha Franklin.
My goodness.
That funeral service. There was a black pastor that got up to speak, and he said, in the black community, and he told the truth that 70% of black families don't have a father in the house.
That's true.
And that is why we're in the trouble we're in. You go back to the 1950s, it wasn't like that.
Right.
Matter of fact, there were more. The family was more together than even white families.
Right.
And that all started to deteriorate, like what you said about the mid 1960s when Lyndon Johnson started his war on poverty, and because of welfare and women
Civil Rights Act of 1960.
Yeah, they didn't have to. They didn't have to depend on a man for work or for a family unit. They got a government check, so therefore they had more kids, and that was the incentive. More kids you had, the more money you made. So they had more kids, and didn't get married, so they got more welfare. Well, that's just a fact. That's the way it was.
And it's not only the blacks, David. It's the whites, too. And naturally, you got more whites on it than you do blacks because you got, as population, in comparison, you got more whites.
Back then, you were 12, 13% of the population.
Yeah. But, I mean, and welfare is not a bad thing. It's for people that need it, David. It's a temporary thing for people that can't... That need help.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a safety net,
and that's where your church.
But not a lounge chair.
Yeah, right. Not a hammock.
Right.
And that's where your church attendance started plummeting. That's where it first started because, back in the day, David, the welfare system was the church. It was your neighbor.
It was.
It was your community. Mm-hmm. It was people that pulled together to help you through your hard times. It was the farmer next door. If you were sick, he come and he took in your crops. He brought food to your family until you got on your feet. That's where, and when the Welfare Act was signed, over time, Dave, that was like a cancer that ate on our entire society. I have often wondered, Dave, why did we allow ourselves to get in this mess? You look back not too far. You look back before 1964. You look the Christians, they got respect. Okay, the preacher man, he got respect. Okay, women, people wouldn't cuss around women and talk dirty around women. Now you can't get away from profanity and vulgar language, even out in the public, Dave. People would open the door for men or women alike. There was courtesy. We was more disciplined, Dave. Back in the day, we respected. When I was a kid, you would, other than what you said, and that's when it started. Because I remember I was very young, but I remember that when that happened with the Black Panthers. But that was in 1968. But see, the ball had already been rolling. The protests had already been started, okay? But now you go back, like I said, before 64, America, brother, was respected by its people. People didn't want to go fight and go serve, but they was enlisting. They was fighting for this country. They respected the flag. They respected their mom and dad. If you was a homosexual, okay, that was okay, but don't cram it down nobody's throat. Live your life and be happy.
Back then people were ashamed of that. They never proudly shouted out they were gay or homosexual. You
They
know,
knew it wasn't acceptable to society.
when I was growing up, I never heard the word gay.
No.
When I was a kid.
It meant happy when I was growing
I
up.
didn't know what, you watch the Flintstones and you hear the theme song, we'll have a gay old time.
Yeah.
Well, that was a whole different thing than what it is now.
Right.
People have changed that word and they've turned it into something evil.
Well, that's just like lawyers. One thing I have against the legal system. You ever heard of a Black's Law Dictionary? There's like 10 editions of a Black Law's Dictionary. It's all legal speak.
Legal terms.
Yes, that's
terminology.
why when you go into a courtroom without a lawyer, you're doomed if you don't know that Black's Law Dictionary. Because the words me and you use in common everyday language, when they say them in the courtroom, that's not what that means. The lawyers are master manipulators of the English language. And like I said, they cost about $60 a piece. I don't have one yet, but I'm going to get one. But the reason they have the Black's Law Dictionary, like I said, I think the 10th edition has come out, is because the system is rigged against you, David. They want you. It's like a club. It's like a lawyer's club. They may not personally know each other, but they're all part of this club, and you are the victim. Just pick up one of these. I look into it.
Look, that's what that's why people like Donald Trump so much, is because he's plain spoken. He doesn't use doublespeak like the Democrats before. They used to say, "We need revenue enhancement."
Yeah,
that was a way of saying we need tax increases.
Lawyers come up with them terms, David.
But the only thing for sure is negative patient outcome and revenue enhancement.
Yeah.
Death and taxes.
Right.
Well, that's another way of saying it. But unless you figure these things out, you never know what people are talking about.
Exactly.
And it just like Orwell said, it's doublespeak. And this is all coming to pass.
It's legalese. Yeah.
And they say one thing, and you think they mean something else, but it's not the way it is.
Right.
They make everything a little bit easier and more palatable to take. Instead of cramming it down your throat, they make it kind of taste a little good at first. Mm-hmm. And then what happens when it gets in your belly, it's as bitter as can be. It makes you sick.
Yeah.
And when you find out what it really is, it makes you sick.
Yeah. You're
and
terminally ill.
And that's exactly what's happened over the past 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
We've gotten a little bit more, and a little bit more until we wake up one day and look where we're at. We're trying to win our country back. And the only person that's got a chance to do it is Donald Trump, and the people that are against him know that, and that's why they're trying so hard to get rid of him. They want him out of there. Yeah. They want to get rid of him.
Well, David, and it's like I said, how can you, with any conscience at all, see what the Democrats is trying to do with this country? Okay, bring in these illegals, slaughter these precious, unborn, innocent babies. Okay. And like I said, I can get along with a homosexual. I can get along with anybody. Just don't try to change what I know is right and wrong. Don't try to cram it down my throat. Mm-hmm. I'll help you if you need help. I'll be there, But, don't try to, it's just like people get mad at me and you, Dave. And the first thing out of their mouth was, well, you're a hater. You're a homophobe, blah, blah, blah. Who are you mad at? Are you mad at me, or are you mad at God? Who are you mad at? Are you mad at me because I'm believing the Bible? I didn't write that Bible, David.
We have to tell the truth. Yeah, exactly.
I believe that.
It's
now,
true.
Are you mad at me for believing that, or are you mad at God for being the author of that? Now, what is it? Who are you mad at? But now, get back to this word precedent. I don't like that word, Dave. And, just like what you were saying, if it's a bad law now, it'll be a bad law 100 years from now.
That's why God doesn't change. And God doesn't change because he's perfect. He doesn't have to.
But now, see, Kavanaugh, and you watched him a lot today, he's pretty slick and careful how he answers these questions. And I really... I don't know that if I don't think he would lead the charge. But see, you got to have standing in a court. And like I was telling my wife earlier, I can't just walk into, say, down here at Franklin, I can't just walk in there and say, hey, the speed limit ain't fair. It's too high. It's too low. I shouldn't. It should be this, that, or the other. See, I don't have standing.
If you had a speeding ticket, you could do it.
Exactly. I would have standing. Now, and that's just like changing the abortion law. Okay, there's a process that has to go through. And like one of the senators said today, they can't just get together in a coffee room and say, hey, let's overturn Roe v. Wade today. But Kavanaugh was very careful how he answered his question. But that word precedence, Dave, I don't like that word. That word is a that's a buzzword to me for, because it's been a law for 100 years, then we're not going to change it. The law, and Kavanaugh, he claims to be a constitutionalist, which I believe that he just may be. I have to take his word on that. Okay, but now, our laws, David, is based on truth, what's right and what's wrong. Precedence is that shouldn't even that shouldn't even be in the equation. You know what I mean? That shouldn't even be in consideration when it comes to a law, Dave. I don't care how long it's been a law. That does not make that law right.
That's exactly right. That's why, the Bible says God never changes, because he doesn't have to. He's perfect in all of his ways. And when you're perfect, there's no need to change. But the law is not perfect.
No.
The Constitution, I think, is close to perfect as you can get, but yet we've made revisions in the Constitution, right. Constitutional amendments. Mm-hmm. But it's very hard to do. But because there is a Constitution, everything that Judge Kavanaugh has to rule on should be filtered through the Constitution.
And he promised
and if it's filtered through the Constitution and is found to be constitutional or lawful, if it doesn't, if it's good law, then it should remain good law.
Right.
If it's bad law, it should be done away with.
Right.
There's no. See, the Democrats want to let you believe that the precedents of a bad law should be
left alone.
Good law.
Yeah.
Now, because they're trying their best to get him to say that he would take down Roe v. Wade, that he would vote against it. And to be honest, I wish they would, but I don't think it's going to ever happen. But
right.
The thing is, it was bad law to begin with because it was based not on the Constitution, but on a privacy issue.
Well, and a lie to start with. Dave.
And I think it was in January of 1973 when this law went down. It was a bad law then, and it's still a bad law. It will never be a good law. It just can't be.
Time doesn't make a bad law a good law.
Right. A woman should never have the right to kill her baby.
Right.
I mean, it may be in her body, but it's not of her.
No.
It's not. It's in her, but not. Even the blood supply of the baby can be different than the mother.
Right. Oh, yeah.
The only thing that's filtered through the placenta is food and nutrients and oxygen.
Right.
To the baby.
That baby's body
it's
is
independent.
Nowhere connected to
exactly.
that woman's body.
And that's why Jesus Christ, when he was in his mother's womb, he wasn't put there by a man having sexual relations with Mary. Mm-hmm. This was a holy thing that was done, and he was in order to break the sin barrier. That this happened because of sin, and the Spirit of God was in her, became the child that grew in her, but the baby didn't have any of her blood.
Right.
It was a holy child, and that was so important that God made it that way, and it's still that way today. We didn't have the science back then to know that, but we have the science now to know that the baby's circulation is different than the mother's. The blood types can be different.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And everything's different. Right. Yeah. And it's like it's an independent. It is an independent person.
Yeah.
And the placenta is the only thing that attaches to the mother that filters out the nutrients and the oxygen to that baby. And God made it that way because he knew that man would mess up, and he knew he already provided a way of escape through Jesus Christ. Would be born of a woman.
Well,
that's why he said back in Genesis, he says, your seed. He's talking about the seed of the woman. The woman doesn't have the seed. It's a man. And he said her seed would bruise his head, and he would bruise his heel.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Well, the baby can have totally different blood type.
Right.
It can be a rare blood type that is very rare that the mother don't have. Now, see, that separates them.
Exactly.
That totally separates them. Life's in the blood. The identity, David, is in the blood. You can take that DNA and it will be similar. Your child's will be, you can make a DNA match. Yeah, that's your mom, that's your dad. But that DNA is not exactly the same. Your fingerprints are different. Okay. There's so many things about that baby that is different that makes it a separate human being. Makes it an individual, David. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
but the judge said something interesting today, and I caught it. And he said, when that baby becomes viable. Now, medical science has got to the point where the viability has gone lower and lower and lower.
Yeah.
And it won't be long. I think the viability of a child could be 20 weeks or less. I mean, we're getting the technology is getting so good that we could actually save that child's life even at 20 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a tiny little baby. It's probably about 6-7 inches long, maybe. But it could be done. And as the technology improves, then they're going to have to ask themselves one day, and this is going to be a Supreme Court decision.
It's coming.
When does life begin? And the legal concept is going to be, are we able to take that life? Doesn't the Constitution say that you have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? Are you taking liberty and life from a human being? And if they ever can get into written law a precedence of that the unborn child is a human being, then this business of abortion will go by the wayside. I guarantee it.
That's what's so important to these liberals about precedents. That's why they're pushing this and cramming down people's throat, because when that day comes, David, they won't have a scientific leg to stand on.
They won't.
You're
right.
And
they won't.
This will be the only thing they have to stand on, Dave. And they know that it's headed that way. They hate science. Well, except for when it comes to global warming, and they're wrong about that. Scientists have proved them that there's no global warming. It's the same way with this. There's going to come a day, David,
You're
when
right.
science can prove without a shadow of doubt that life, me and you know this, us Christians know this, and pro-life people, you don't have to be a Christian.
As sure as there is a God in heaven, they're going to prove that this is life.
And conception.
And you can hear a heartbeat. What does that tell you?
That
means that there's something alive in you if you can hear a heartbeat.
But here's the thing. Here's even what makes it true, even more so today, David. You can't take two dead entities and make life.
No.
What comes out of the man that's joined to the woman, there's life both there. Each component has life. It takes life to create life. There's organisms and cells in the things that makes a baby. So there's life there's life even before conception.
There's exponential cell division after the sperm comes in contact with the egg.
That's what I was trying to avoid saying.
It's going to take place. Well, fertilization takes place, life begins. When the two come together,
human life begins, but you got life even before that.
The two come together and form one.
Yes.
It's just like God said, the two shall be one.
Right. But see, you got life in that egg, and you got life in them sperm cells.
Exactly.
So you have to start a life with something that's alive.
Exactly.
Already,
life begets life.
Yes.
That's just the way it is.
Life begets.
You can't have death beget life. It just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
When you're dead, you're dead.
So
when you leave this and this is what I heard about the McCain funeral. So, well, they're taking McCain. He's making his last trip from Phoenix to Washington. No, he's not. He's not in that body.
Nope, he's gone.
And they're taking a corpse. They're taking a corpse from Phoenix to Washington, D.C., or Maryland, wherever.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the life is not in his body anymore. It's gone.
It's gone.
And when you die, you leave a shell. It's like
That's it.
you're just like taking off a coat and leaving an old coat behind, and you're gone.
It's like pouring the water out of that bottle.
Exactly.
All you got left's the bottle.
There is no good thing in the flesh.
No, it rots and decays, and it's gone.
Well, even
And
Jesus
for
said
a
that.
later day.
He said everything's spiritual. He said the spiritual. He said the body means nothing.
Right.
It's just
No
nothing.
good thing in the flesh because
There is no good thing in the
goes back
flesh.
to the dust.
It does. It goes back to from where God made you from the dust and blew into your nostrils the breath of life.
Well, do you know that? And you know what? Since we're on a scientific topic, you can take out of the ground every component that's in your body. You
That's
know
true.
that every mineral
That's true.
that's in the ground is well, not every mineral, but you can extract the same minerals out of your body that's in the ground. So
That's
now,
true.
you think that's a coincidence? I don't hardly think so. I seen a statement on Facebook today, David, and this is so true. And I tell you what, people, this is something to think about. And it says a generation taught to hate the country will refuse to defend it as well.
It's true.
And that's what we're raising right now, not us per se, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's
that reminds me of something I saw. A guy was doing an interview of these college students, and he was asking them the simple question. He goes, "Do you think America is great?" And all of them said no.
Yeah,
Do you think it ever was great? No.
yeah.
And they said, well, why not? I said, because of slavery and all these different problems we've had. But the thing is, America has always sought greatness.
Right.
We have always, look who we've
We
helped.
have evolved.
In Europe, they would be speaking German if it wasn't for the United States.
Amen, brother.
We went into World War II, and we saved their bacon.
That's right.
I mean, if it wasn't for us, the Brits would have been eventually taken over,
Oh, yeah.
and Hitler would have had everything.
That reminds me of something else.
But you know, this country's great, and we care, and we care for our own, and that's why we have in the military a saying that no man should be left behind.
Right.
But we take everybody with us when we leave.
Right. Now, that put me in mind of this. This is a letter, an open letter written by a nurse in Germany. And she sends this message to the world, and this was on Facebook. Now, I got some highlighted spots here. I'm going to read this. Relations between the staff and migrants are going from bad to worse. Since last weekend, migrants going to the hospital must be accompanied by police with canine units. Many migrants have AIDS, syphilis, open TB, and many exotic diseases that we in Europe do not know how to treat. If they receive a prescription to the pharmacy, they suddenly learn they have to pay cash. This leads to unbelievable outbursts, especially when it is about drugs for their children. They abandon the children with pharmacy staff with the words, "So, cure them here yourselves." So the police are not just guarding the clinics and hospitals, but also the large pharmacies. And she goes on to say this, David. Until now, the number of unemployed in Germany, now this was written in 2018. I don't know the exact date, but until now, the number of unemployed in Germany was 2.2 million. Now it will be at least 3.5 million. Most of these people are completely unemployable. Only a small minimum of them have any education. What is more, their women usually do not work at all. I estimate that 1 in 10 is pregnant. hundreds of thousands of them have brought along infants. And it goes on down and blah, blah, blah. And it just basically says the same thing. And there was one of them stabbed a doctor and two nurses, and they had to go undergo surgery. He was a pediatric physician, had to go undergo surgery, and two nurses are recovering in the ICU, and nobody was punished when they went off on this doctor and these nurses. Now, how many times have you seen our law enforcement in these liberal cities back down and let these Antifas beat the windows out of cars, set cars on fire, hit people in the head with bike locks, and tear these statues down, and nobody punished for it, Dave? You know, I'm telling you, this thing's going to blow. But now, most of these, David, are Muslims. Mm-hmm. Their intention is to overthrow Europe. Now, every great empire, the Persian Empire, you take the Greek Empire, you take the Roman Empire, you name it, any great empire that has fell, the Babylonians, there are two things cause them to fall. Okay, if they wasn't overthrown by a greater military, if that didn't take them down, what happened over the years was they quit doing what made them great to start with, Dave. You look at this country. You look at what made America great. Yeah, we have evolved. We went from a slave nation to where people was freed. Women was able to vote. We went to an economic boom. We fed the world. We have fought wars to free the Jews from the concentration camps where 6 million was murdered in gas chambers, and that don't include the ones that they don't know about, Dave. You look at how that we have sought for greatness. You look how that we have evolved into the great mighty superpower that we are today. And Dave, the Democrats are wanting to do exactly what these fallen empires have done, what these third world countries are. They want to take us down the socialist communist path, Dave, to break our backs and destroy us. Our own people, a section of our own people, are trying to destroy this government from within, to take it down to a globalist economy, to a globalist government, to a one world currency. And they are not only globalists, David, they're demonic, they're evil, whatever you want to, however you want to call it, Dave. These people they're black, they're dark, their hearts are sinister. There's nothing but evil inside of these people, Dave. And they are trying their best for America to stop doing what made us great. They're attacking every institution, David, that made us who we are from the beginning is under attack. They need America. Wake up, for God's sake, wake up.
You're so right, Les. These people are not stupid. Think about this.
No,
the things that they say about Donald Trump, they know are lies, and the things that they said about Judge Kavanaugh, they know that they're lying.
Exactly.
They know everything that they're saying is a lie.
They're not
and
stupid.
It's just like a stupid game with them that they're playing for the benefit of those who want to vote for them.
Right.
That's the game that they're playing.
They're after that young mind that's gullible.
They're after a vote because they know that in less than 2 months, the election's going to come. And what are they going to do? They got to make people angry because they got to come out and vote for him.
Now,
so how else do they do that?
The polls, they're saying he's only got 35% approval rating.
What else can they say?
Yeah.
That's all they got. They've got nothing, and they're scared to death that if we maintain control of Congress, it's going to be bad for them for the next 2 years. And then in 2020, look what's going to happen.
Right.
Donald Trump's going to win again. I think there's nobody I've seen that can beat him.
Well, like I said, there's one way to prove that Donald Trump was influenced, the hand of God had
God's
his
man.
Was God's man, because that's if he stays in power until God's done with him, David.
Well, I think he will, because I think we're at the end of this. I think we're in the last days. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, but there is a God in heaven, and he wrote the end down, and he's wrote it to the entirety of the Bible. There's prophecies that indicate that God will come back in the form. Jesus Christ will come back to this earth.
It's plain as a nose on the
When he
face.
left, the angels looked at the disciples looking up and said, the same Jesus as you see going away will come back in like manner. And the Bible says that he'll come back on the clouds, and he'll step his foot down onto the Mount of Olives. And that Mount of Olives will cleave to the north and to the south, and he'll walk into the temple through the Kidron Valley up the way into the eastern gate. It'll be open finally. He'll walk in and he'll take his rightful seat as Lord of all.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. And there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be scared to death when that does happen.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There is a God in heaven.
Amen, brother. And when you close your eyes in death, that's a bad time to find out you was wrong. But hey, Dave, we've got just about 45 seconds here, brother, and I want to thank everybody, and leave that on a minute, Nance, after I sign out here. Jimmy, I thank you, brother, for producing this show, and Dave, I thank you for being my co-host. You got 30 seconds, Dave, or less.
Well, it's been a great day. We're expecting some rain. They're going to work on a motorcycle tomorrow, so it should be better.
Yeah, and I wish it'd cool off a little bit. All right, Jimmy, that's all we got, brother. Take us on out. Thank you so much. God bless you listeners out there. See you next week.
Politicians say more taxes will solve everything. And the band played on.